you. Hello, and virtual Azure Community Days. My name is Hamida Rebai. I am Microsoft MVP in Developer Technology, Software Architect. I am a .NET Foundation member and contributor. If you want to ask me any questions, you can follow me on Twitter. You can send me an email or on LinkedIn. You can find all what you need in these contacts. To accelerate the digital transformation, companies should build a strategy to move to the cloud and ensure a safe transition of their existing application to the new approach, or prevent learning the new cloud patterns and architecture to build a new application. During this session, we will discuss about the cloud adoption methodology, tools, research, and the best practice to simplify and accelerate moving your current application to the cloud or a new one. It is necessary to understand the assessment phase and adjustment needs, presentation and definition of Azure services and models. After we present the different steps to migrate .NET application to Azure and illustrate the advantage of full range of cloud benefits like automatic scaling, patching, performance monitoring, and the DevOps. So you will be able after the session to know how you can move your existing .NET framework application directly to the cloud by modernizing specific areas with or without any change on the or recoding entire application. Before you begin planning for cloud migration, you need to define how, create the initial technical plans, ensure that your workloads will run as expected, prepare a qualitative model for estimating migration costs, and perform the migration by limiting the impact on the company. The migration analysis is very important phase because it's your key to move to the cloud. You need to understand your environment in this phase, your infrastructure, your application, the security requirements, the governance, to be able to decide if you are ready to go to the cloud with all application and your environment, to be able to calculate the costs now and after 5 or maybe 10 years. Every direction in the company should contribute to this phase of migration analysis. The result of the first phase of this analysis is a vision architecture, and to do that, some company use it TOGAF, but we can have more methods, more framework to do like this one, and what is related to Scrum. So what is TOGAF? Here we find the definition. It's a framework used inside an organization to develop an enterprise architecture. And TOGAF architecture development, ADM, method cycle defines the best practice to build an organization's enterprise architecture. And we will use this method in our session today to be able to build the technical architecture. We suppose that we are able to do the vision architecture, to plan the deployment, to implement it, and to manage the change. When we move to the cloud, it's really important to manage the change, to maintain our infrastructures. The first experience of migration maybe is more cost, but we learn during a period how we can scale our application, how VMs, and so it's really important to manage the changes. Cloud migration, here we found the cloud migration phase that was based on TOGAF. A cloud migration, this one contains 6 phases. In any transformative change, it's important to understand what the destination is. Here we talk about the source architecture, and what is the waypoints along the journey will be. There are multiple potential destinations for any application, and IT cloud deployment will be a mixture of them. And we get these 6 phases, and we finish by migration and the tests. Now, the cloud migration is clear, and we will start building a cloud migration strategy. The cloud migration strategy will depend on many factors: the complexity of your infrastructure, the skills of your teams, because we need to start working of all teams to learn new definition of the cloud, new way of development, new way of deploying in the cloud, in Azure, in any provider. Stage of the application deployment cycle, information security levels. This one, it's really important for any organization. And according to the security, we can define how we can move to the cloud, or if we stay in the on-premise because we have some confidential information. The cloud migration principles are go fast, fast. So you fail fast, you learn faster, and you try many, use the best. Push the boundaries to design new application and capabilities for the cloud model refactor legacy app to take advantage of the cloud capability. Here we talk about experience. Make data-driven decisions simplify. Manage your costs, use telemetry to gain insight into operational efficiency. You need to understand your blockers, manage your plan of records, simplify, and in the end, communicate to succeed. So we need to share the best practice. Transparency is the key in this case. Now, let's prepare our cloud roadmap. We suppose that we have a vision architecture, and we will start defining our strategy for every application according to our infrastructure and links between them. In this picture, we can see the different strategy that we can use it for any application. If your analysis defines that an application can't move to the cloud for technical reason or data security issues, this application will stay on premises. But we have more strategy. The first one is the lift and shift. We talk about infrastructure as a service, but to take advantage of the cloud and minimize the costs, we recommend to opt for platform as a service, and for same case, we can replace an application by another in the cloud. Here we talk about software as a service. And here we can see our app from the cloud optimization to the app modernization. After defining the priority, all members should study the data compliance and confidentiality, the technology used to decide if we are able to move it without a change or load shedding for a redesign. And because everything is around the application, the choice on the strategy will depend on the migration way. We are talking here about the 5R, and we can see here everything starting by R. So we have refactoring, re-architect, renew, and technical professionals inside the company have to prepare an exit plan for every application and the need to decide if they will work on all applications, even if they can't integrate it into the cloud, or select another application that they have to start a strategy. In our journey of the cloud here, we will start from application or data or infrastructure, artificial intelligence application on premises. And we will start talking about rehost, that is lift and shift. Here on premises, we have migration and modernization, rehost, refactor, or re-architects. Here it's inside the application, but we can work more for new application to using cloud patterns. Here we talk about rebuild, new, or if we want to replace application, we can use only software as application, like Office or Dynamics CRM. Here we can see more in detail our cloud migration approach. So the rehost is lift and shift, as we said. So it's just you take all your server and you just deploy them in the cloud as a virtual machine. Refactor is the second one. It's likely packaging your application, but no major code changes. Okay, so in the reals on refactored, we don't need to change our code, re-architect or anything, but in the third one, we need to do some adjustment, re-architecting of our application. We need to modernize our code, breaking monolithic, like using microservices in our case. And the rebuild, we need to discard legacy application in this case and develop again using cloud services and features. It requires good mastery of functional and technical concepts, familiarity with an existing application and business processing as well as cloud services. And here we find the software is to replace our application. So the organization will manage nothing, just create to use software deployed online. We will talk now about Azure, that is a big cloud ecosystem with a wide variety of services, as you can see here, for infrastructure, for platform as a service, security, management. But in this session, we are going to focus on the app modernization offered by Azure, so we will focus on platform as a services. Now we will be more specific for .NET application, and we will discuss about the maturity model for modernize it according to the cloud model. We will start by cloud hosted strategy, that is the lift and shift. This strategy doesn't require any changes. It is a simple move from on-premises to the cloud. So all server will move to virtual machines. In infrastructure as service model, the providers responsible in managing virtualization, server, storage, and networking. The model is really simple and easy, but it's expensive, and but you can't get any benefits from the advantages of cloud, like DevOps, for example. The next one is cloud ready, is platform as a services, where we deploy our web application on container following the same environments, because here in this case we don't need to change code, near re-architect. So Windows will be Windows. If we have any application, Linux will be deployed as in container Linux. And as you can see here, we only manage our application data, and the others will be managed by Microsoft or cloud provider. We can find a full path here. We talk about cloud native. So if we need more scaling control of our research and optimization, we can use service offered by provider, but we need to re-architect in this case and to adapt to new code, like using microservices. Here we can find many services in Azure, so we are able to use them for our application, even for our database. We can adopt the same models for database migration, but we need to use Azure database migration services to be able to get results of the assessments and to use the tool to choose between Azure database as a service. Now we will discuss more about .NET migration alternative and choice. Any web application can move to the cloud without any changes. .NET application can be MVC app for any version, web forms application, web API servers, any version 2, web page app, or WCF services. If you have dependency that can be document, file, system, COM object, you need to pass by migration process defined in Vision architecture, and we decide to move them with the environment on VM, lift and shift, or we can move them in Windows container on Azure VM or on Azure Container Service or on Azure Service Fabric. While containers support a quick migration path, since no code needs to be changed, it has more complex learning curve than migration to Azure AVM. If no dependency is required, it will be simpler to use Azure App Services or Azure Container Instance if we need to work with containers. So, Windows Container are a strategy way to modernize our existing .NET Framework application in case that we are not able to, in case that we have many dependencies. We mentioned it many times, the container as a way of modernization. So how do containers can help us to app modernization? Which tool we can use, which services that we can use inside Azure? So we start by defining what is containers and what we give to the developer. So the containers give developer the ability to create predictable environment isolated from other applications. Every dependency needed by the application, version of the runtime, libraries, etc. are included in the container and guaranteed to be consistent regardless of where the image is deployed. The equals productivity. Developer and ops teams spend less cycle debugging or diagnosing environment issue and more time pushing features and to the users. So if we here in our case, our application in localhost, it's the same in production, no adjustment with the environment because it's like cloning the environment to the production. If you come back to our 5R, but here we have 4, the last one is replaced for containers, we can see how we can deploy if we want to rehost here, refactor, and the microservices approach. If we decide to re-architect for a new application, we have to build patterns to adopt cloud native strategy in the future. Azure provides different choice for app modernization, and we have a complete set of choice. Here we have app services, and for Service Fabric, Kubernetes services, they are Orchestrator. Here we have the containers instance, and we have ecosystem partners where you can bring your partner solution that work perfectly on Azure. And in the bottom, we have the Azure. We can use Azure Container Registry to add our instance, or Docker App is the same tool. So we have many choices for developer and for clients. Here we give more details about Orchestrator in Azure. So we have Azure Kubernetes and Service Fabric that you can use them, mesh or cluster here. And the difference between them that when you have stateful services, it's required to use Service Fabric. But the Azure Service Fabric is distributed system platform, and we have Service Fabric mesh that you can use it if you need more. It's really for distributed and complex system. Here we can see from container to orchestrator. We will start by our development environment here in the phase. So we have .NET Framework, .NET Core Framework. So we have many applications here that we have in the environment. The deployment environment in this case is a Docker container. And now we need to define which infrastructure we need to use. And according to this decision, we can have the cloud infrastructure and some orchestrator. Here we talk about production parts. So we have development and deployment technology that we can use. And we have the production parts where we can use orchestrator, containers, or many other services If you talk about cloud infrastructure like SQL database, as a service, service bus, blob storage. So here we can understand the difference between the production environments, dev environment, and development environments. Now we will do some demo. What we need here, we have the prerequisite environments. We need to have Windows 10 for Docker installation, Visual Studio 2019 or 2017, where we have the support of Docker, .NET Core SDK, Docker for Windows, and Docker tools. You need to have an account on Docker Hub here. And what we need to do, so we'd like to start by a simple .NET Core application. I will show we will create a .NET application. We create and push this image with Docker Desktop. We'll push Docker image to Azure Container Registry or Docker App or Azure Web App. We will try to deploy on Azure Kubernetes. And in the end, I have a video that I recorded to prepare your environment if you want to use Azure Service Fabric. Now I will move to an application. I created an application here. It's API, AISP API application, .NET Core 3.1. So here, so we can choose here Kubernetes, for example. Sorry, Kubernetes here. So we have a template container application for Kubernetes if you want to use any web application using Docker and container and Kubernetes as orchestrator. So you'll find the definition, create ASP core. It can be Angular, it can be React.js, it can be API, ASP, web application. And we have the Fabric here, a project template for creating scalable distributed application using Microsoft Azure Service Fabric. In this application, I will use Kubernetes, and we will see how we can deploy this an application on. We will start by Azure Web Application. After we will deploy on locally an image, Docker image. We will push it after in Azure Container Instance, and after we will we'll try to deploy it on Azure Kubernetes. In the end, we will show you how you can prepare your machine to start using Azure Service Fabric, because you need to install to install your cluster locally in your machine before pushing that to Azure. So, as I said, this is an application. Here, we can run it. It's a web API. We have control. Here we can see the Docker file already created when we use the template. So, no change for now. And we have YAML file for Kubernetes. And to deploy, we click on Publish, and we have app services, service Linux, container registry, and you can choose your virtual machine. If we did lift and shift, we are able to choose the virtual machine, the IIS, and to deploy directly from your machine from Visual Studio. Here we will try just to use IIS Express to see what we have in this application. It's a web API that displays the weather forecast. It's a web API simple. Okay. Now we will start the first one. We will deploy here. Publish. I will start by publishing. We can create a new one, or we can select from your current. If you already created app web application, Azure web application, you can select from. So we will create a new one here. We give a name to app. So I will say, so for example here, we choose your subscription. I will create a new resource group to be able to see only our demo. So here we choose the hosting. Okay, the hosting plan, you can create a new one. And if you need to have some application inside for monitoring, for statistics for your application, so here I don't need that for now. I will click on create. So he will try to create app services in our My Accounts. Now we go back to the portal. This is the portal. I'll try to be. Here we find all the resource, and we will after creation. It's not created yet. We will find all our research here, and after we will see. Takes few time. So this is just takes few time. This is how we can deploy directly from Visual Studio to app services. But you can use FTP if you are in the portal. You can use Visual Studio Code using PowerShell. You can use many ways, but it's the simple way if you use already Visual Studio in our case. Okay. Now I will just show you how you can create a web app services as a container. So here we create. So just we need to click on plus after app web services, web app. We click on create. It's the same here. As you can see, you choose your research group. I don't know if you already created the other research. Yes, here. We will select this one. I will give a name. Here we say, for example, the ACD test, for example, just we show. And here we have Docker containers. We can publish the code as we did now here. Okay, it's published. Now we click on publish here to be able to publish the web, our web API. And this another one here. We can active Docker containers. You can choose your operating system, Linux or Windows, according to your image that you use. You choose the region, you choose your plan, if it's Linux or Windows, you need to choose your, here as you can see, it's published, but we can back after. So here we have the SQ and size, you choose your size. We go to next. If you need to specify more options about choosing Docker, for example, you want single container, you want Docker Compose. Here, if we talk about Orchestrator, if you don't want to use Kubernetes, image, here you can use image source, it's Azure Container Registry, or you want to use Docker Hub, or it's private registry, it's up to what you need. Here, We have the Nginx web server default site. If you want to use Nginx here, you have more detail. For monitoring too, as we said before, we can activate that here too. If you want to use application inside to enable that. And you can have tag after you click on review and create, and he will create for you web app using as a container using Docker and Docker Compose or inside Azure Container Registry if you want. Okay. Here we try to see what's the problem here. We will try to verify if this one is created or not. So here our research, this one, this site, this is one, and we have the link, the URL, and you can find if you want, you can find the FTP deployment if you don't want to use, as I said before, Visual Studio to deploy for security issue. For you choose specific person to deploy, so you can disable the option from Visual Studio. So we can use FTP, FTTPS, and here we can find deployment slots. So we have here the one for production. We can add more, and for example, pre-deployment or for development. Before passing to production, it's really necessary after if we want to manage the CI/CD between teams to validate between dev to production, and we can manage that inside Azure DevOps to deploy all in by slots. And you can find everything, how you can scale up, scale out. So this is all research. Now we will try to see how we can deploy as in container. We go back here. As I said before in prerequisites, we need to have Docker desktop installed in your machine to be able to load locally your image. After we will push it. Okay, yes, I have this new version, new one. I have Kubernetes added in Docker locally desktop. Now I will choose here, and I will choose here Docker, and I will try to compile to be able to load a new image and push it in locally in Docker. And here we have the dashboard where we can find all our image. Okay, we still waiting. Here we have all image in the machine, and in the dashboard we can manage. As you can see here, it's created, running, and we can see the logs. We can inspect environment, statistics, CPU usage, memory. So here you can have all information that you need. And the image was created. So here you can find all image that we have inside, and you choose by one. I will close this one. And now from this one, we will try to deploy an image, this image, to push it inside. I will just edit here to be able to redeploy again. Delete. Okay, here. So we will choose here container registry. So you can create new Azure container registry where he will create an instance inside, or you will choose choose existing Azure container registry, or if you want to deploy to Docker Hub, directly. So it's the same thing here. For example, you did create, you try to create a new one here, or we select one. I don't think I have one. No, I don't have one. Or here you just log in, use your personal credential to deploy on Docker Hub. For example, here just to see. And you click on publish, and you will see that in your Docker Hub. Or you can select if you have a new image in a server, for example. Here we use App Service Linux, and if you have specific custom container, you can always define, for example, here create, you can define URL, username, and the password. And now I will show you how we can prepare your environment for Service Fabric. I recorded that, so to set up your Windows development environment to be able to use Service Azure Fabric and Fabric Mesh. Here you go to Service Fabric Mesh Tools to be able to install the SDK. This is required before working using Azure Service Fabric. So you need to start installing the SDK. You have this one, you will add this one. So you need Docker to be, because you need to add your cluster too. So you need to add a new cluster. So we use this command line to create a new cluster inside your machine, as you can see here. I recorded that because it takes many times to set up this one. After I added the image here, as you can see, the image was stored, and the cluster was created. So the second command line here, as you can see, welcome to Service Fabric Local Cluster Manager. He added the cluster. And here we have our cluster already prepared. Here to be able to manage, here you can see manage local cluster. We can switch cluster mode if you need to use one node or more, or mesh file. Here we talk about the Azure Fabric Mesh, as you can see here. Okay. Now, if you have any questions, thank you.